I guess I first met George in about the year of 2000 when I started dating his daughter Molly, and she introduced me to George and showed me his art studio, and I got to see what kind of art that George was doing at that time. And you know, it's a very unique style, I think most people would say, but it was just full of color, and you know, it was very refreshing. But George was, as an artist, I think he was very successful because his style was quite different than everybody else's. He wasn't a portrait painter. He painted from the visions I think he had in his mind about things. So if you look, I think that was kind of the window to how he viewed things.
I met George Elliott about approximately 35 plus years ago. We were members of a car club called the Milestone Car Club. And these were cars that didn't qualify for classics, but they were kind of like a new era classic car. And I had a 57 T-Bird, and there were some other people in Noblesville that also had some we'll call them new collectibles. And in any event, that's where I first met George, and he entertained the car club one day at his house, and we became friends, and you know, we were kind of car nuts together.
Phil introduced me to George. I'm trying to think what car he had a problem with. I think it's actually the Cord 812 that he just bought, and he had a shifting problem. And anyway, I managed to sort out an electronic shift, or electric shift, not electronic. And anyway, I sorted it. It only had 3 gears, and they would actually be different gears at any one time, which you actually had. So anyway, I sorted that out. It was a switch malfunction, a 60-year-old switch that was worn out. And George invited me back to do different things on different cars. And that's how I got to know him. And I guess we hit it off and actually became a good friend of his, I would like to say.
He was a good friend. Very took care of a lot of cars for him, and kept them running, and stopped them too when they had issues with brakes, which they frequently did.
He had a passion from an early day because he was my little brother, and I used to see him on the floor with his basket of dinky toys. And Marion tells me, I didn't remember this, that he liked to play underneath the piano. My mom was very artistic, and she used to play Claire de Lune, and he used to be underneath there going around the pedals and all kinds of things while she was playing. But that was supposedly his favorite place, right?
And his favorite song was Claire de Lune.
But he would take the rugs and make humps and mountains and tunnels and all that stuff, yes, from an early age, and he would sketch.
Well, he was interested in collecting cars from even as a small boy. You know, he had his collection of dinky cars, a special collector set, and errands to get cars for that collection were a part of who he was even as a small boy. And then it just, the size of the cars maybe grew with him as he grew older. And when he was old enough to buy cars of this size, that's what he started collecting.
George was probably the most down-to-earth, simple and generous person that you know, I've run into in many years. He was most comfortable in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt and his sandals, and he liked to be comfortable, and he was a joy to be around because he was not pretentious at all. He just enjoyed people and art and these kinds of things.
George was certainly generous to his friends. I thought he had a damn good sense of humor. He laughed a lot, and even with his illness, he was still upbeat and generally very in good spirits relative to his illness, and he never had any signs of like, why me? I think that, you know, that showed his character and his personality, and he was you know, he was a good guy. He was just a nice person to everybody. Nobody could say anything bad about George.
The things I found was just his generosity and his warmth would probably be the biggest features to me. He was just to me, whom we'd never known before. You know, we didn't have a long friendship, but we got on very well together, and in fact he just welcomed me with open arms and a warm heart. And but I would say probably his warmth and as the best trait of his personality.
I don't know if it's one memory in particular, but he had a way of turning family excursions to include the cars. So we'd hop in the cars and go to get ice cream, or we'd go to a park for a picnic, or the destination became less important than which old car we would get there in.
I was always impressed by his car collection because he wasn't a collector of one type of car, one model, one brand, and in multiple years. He was a collector of cars because of their artistic value. If you look at things like this Cord or this Jag, the Airflow, they all have a different artistic feel about them. And I remember spending many days with George in his garage. We worked together to have a couple of his cars repainted in different colors that he wanted. They were cars that were beautiful in their own way, but they just weren't the color that he wanted. So we would spend a lot of time together, and I would help him take some of these cars apart, get them to the paint shop for him, and then reassemble them. And he loved to be in the garage looking at his cars. I mean, he had them all arranged in a way that he could look at the aspect that he liked the most about the car. And some cars were parked in a way that you could see the grille. Some were parked so you could see the tail end of the car. I mean, he liked being able to look at them more than anything.
You know, he collected cars for a variety of reasons, and he was very particular. He always kept a list of cars that he wanted. Sometimes it was about the look. It might be like this Lincoln, where it was the sculpted lines of the car that he really liked the look. Another one might be the very first year or the very first car to have a particular technology. You know, it might be the first car with overdrive, or the first one with something. So he just looked for cars on that list of favorites that he wanted, and when he found them, like this one, he found in New Zealand and had it shipped back to the US. So it was not one style, not one time period. It was very specific to the car.
The cars were, you know, they were rolling sculptures to him in a sense, from an artist standpoint. And he was a damn good artist. I mean, he was self-taught, had tremendous artwork that he did, and anyway, it showed in his selection of colors for his cars, and the selection of his cars relative to what he thought was, you know, iconic in the way of his collection of cars.
I was going to say iconic certainly, because a lot of those cars, he didn't look upon it as an investment. He looked upon it as something that he enjoyed, and it didn't matter if no one else thought that they were particularly good cars. But it turned out, if you look, like the Citroën Traction Avant, iconic car, not in the US, but the rest of the world. Even the humble Beetle, his little 53 Beetle, that's iconic car. The Chrysler Airflow, another iconic car. The Lincoln Zephyr, another piece of beautiful engineering and style. And I think above all, he chose his cars on style. Yeah, certainly without a doubt, the colors, if he wanted it a different color, he would do that. He wasn't a purist. He didn't care that if he didn't paint this car this particular color, that it would affect its value. That's the color he wanted, and that's what it was going to have.
I would ask him at times, you know, do you want us to help you get some of your cars to a show? Do you want, I can come over and help you detail them and make sure they're mechanically ready and take them to a show. And he didn't have a lot of interest in showing his cars in public or getting judging awards or things like that. He simply found the cars that he liked the most in his mind. He found the best ones he could find, and he put them away in his collection for his enjoyment.
No, I would not say he drove them every day, but he might have gone over to look at them every day. I think his main interest really was the different artistic things about the car. And I think he loved driving him.
Well, I think that his eye as an artist factored into which ones appealed to him in terms of the look and the design and the lines of the car. You know, he particularly would look at the front of the car. You know, that front view, and like the headlights or the chrome or the shape of the grille. And I think the fact that he was an artist who painted and sculpted also, I think there was definite tie-in between his sculptor side and the type of cars and the look of the cars he liked. A lot of things in life for him were about the people, and you'll see a lot about people and faces and expressions in his paintings and his art, but in the cars it was about the times he spent with people with the cars and enjoying them together. He didn't want to drive the car by himself. He wanted us to pile in the car with him and go somewhere and enjoy that excursion and experience. So I think it's the people stories that he associated with cars. When he would talk about, you know, a family relative, a great-grandparent, a great-uncle, somebody else, when he was telling the story, whatever the topic, the cars would always come into the story.
I've been collecting and restoring cars my whole life, but these 4 cars in particular for us mean a lot because they're part of George, and they were cars that he selected to, you know, play part in his life. They were things that he loved, and we love the same designs, and so these cars, we'll never sell them. They'll pass to our children because we believe they're part of George, and we'll carry on.
You know, I think it's an inherited responsibility to preserve the house that we grew up in, which is where I live now, but also these cars that came from him. But along with the cars came the memories of time we spent together in these or other cars. So I focus on the people side of things too, and seeing the cars and driving the cars revives and keeps those memories alive as well. He always wanted to know what people saw and what, you know, he never wanted to explain what his intent was in a painting. It'd be the same thing with a car. He wants to know what you see, what do you enjoy, what do you like in the cars or in the paintings, and so I think he would turn the question around and want to know what other people see or experience.
You've got to remember I was 5 years older, so I was in school basically from when he was born. I remember it's not the earliest, it was one of the later ones because I was in college, he was in high school, and we bought a car together, a red and white Chevy convertible. And it turned out that I was going to do student teaching and have the car, and he was going to be without it. And I think he talked my husband into asking me to marry him because I ended up getting married and he got the car. So one way or another, he was going to get his cars.